All right. So today we are going to be talking about AmeriCorps. But first, and then of course, in our second half hour of the show, we'll have our health feature segment talking about some health insurance tips since open enrollment season does officially start on Sunday. All right. First, we will start, as we always do, with our inspirational quote of the day. All right. This one is by Abraham Lincoln. And I think it's actually a little ironic that he said this. He said, "It is not the years of your life that count, it's the life in your years." Isn't that fascinating? It is not the years of your life that count, it's the life in your years. So, someone who is making it count in her years is Kathy Vohs. All right, Kathy is involved with the AmeriCorps programs in North Carolina, and AmeriCorps is it's kind of like a Peace Corps, but she has an interesting background. She is not someone who you would think would just go straight into the volunteer world and fight to end homelessness because Kathy, you have a background in chemical engineering. All right, so tell us a little bit about your story before we get into AmeriCorps and all the wonderful things that it does, because I just can't say enough good things, and we'll get into all that. But first, tell us a little bit about you, Kathy.
Well, when I was little, my mother had these Dixie cup dispensers in the bathroom, and I would routinely mix anything I could find together in these Dixie cups and leave them sitting around. And she said, "Oh, I always knew you'd be a chemist because of that." And I became a chemical engineer, ended up working for Procter and Gamble, making peanut butter and Olay and Clearasil and all kinds of different products. And it was a real thrill. And then they sent me to Japan to do skincare in Asia.
And you wouldn't think that Procter and Gamble would be doing that kind of thing, right?
Doing what? Mixing things in Dixie cups?
And and the perfume and the
Well, they have a huge development group, and they're always trying to be, bigger, better, and come out with the new and improved stuff. So,
which is why they had Kathy there.
Yes, clearly that's why they wanted me there.
So then, what was that like being overseas?
It was fascinating. I had worked in Asia for 4 years prior to that, and then to go and live there, it was completely unique. I moved into my apartment on Friday, and the Kobe earthquake hit on Tuesday.
Oh my gosh!
And so everything got busted.
Yeah,
but I had everything. Whereas my friend who was going to get her shipment the following Friday, her stuff was locked up for 6 months.
Oh.
So even though I went through kind of the breakage part of it, I had everything.
You were good,
and I had access to everything. And she was always living in her winter clothes. So it worked out really the best it could have worked out.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. All right, so fast forward now.
Mm-hmm.
You decide to retire, and then you can't.
Well, I retired to get my master's in apologetics.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so you get your master's, and then what?
And then I found this role with AmeriCorps working with the homeless and the partnership to end homelessness. And we've always focused on homelessness and hunger, which are the areas I wanted to impact with my life.
And why is that?
Why
did you want to impact?
Oh.
Why did that? Because you could have done anything. I mean, you have an amazing brain, right? And it is one that goes into a situation, analyzes it, looks at all the options, and then finds a way to fix it. I mean, would you say that's how your brain is wired?
Yeah, sadly, that sounds right.
Thank you. I'm a mother of many children. So tell us though, because you could have picked anything, but you go into AmeriCorps to try to help end homelessness. First of all, explain to all the listeners out there who are listening, because I think they're now definitely fascinated with how, you are involved in this and what it is that you chose to be involved with. So tell us, first of all, what is AmeriCorps?
Well, AmeriCorps is a way to serve your community. So like you were saying, the Peace Corps, we serve in overseas countries, but AmeriCorps is serving in your community. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I wish this was different. I wish that was different," but they don't know how to make an impact. But if you have a heart for service, AmeriCorps is clearly your golden ticket, because they will take you, give you professional development training, put you in a place where you can make an impact. And your year, you see a lot of fruit come out of your year of
Mm.
service.
And so tell us what is going on with AmeriCorps in North Carolina?
Holy cow. There's so many different programs, and they're always going at people who maybe seemed a little left behind. So kids in high school who don't know how to apply to college, don't know have that in their family, or people in don't have access to healthcare, kind of getting left out over there, or immigrants and refugees. They want to assimilate into society, but they can't quite find the ways to become part of what's going on. Little kids not reading at grade level. Everybody who seems just like, oh, I'm getting kind of left behind by all the fish are swimming, and I'm kind of back. Yeah, AmeriCorps loves to focus on let's get everybody having a great life.
And that's so important too, because I feel like there's a lot of kids out there who look at other people and they think, oh, well, they have it easy or they've got it all together. But really, everyone's struggling through, whatever situation they're going through. It's just finding a way to get there, and having good mentors is certainly something that is so important. And, just an example is the need to just help even younger kids read,
Mhm.
which can make such a huge impact. And I know that's something that they do as well.
Yes, there's several AmeriCorps programs that focus on literacy, mostly with children. But uh, even if the program like the Access Project, which focuses on immigrants and refugees, they have a reading side to them.
Hmm.
So nearly all of the AmeriCorps programs in North Carolina have several things that they're doing to help the community, because you find that, oh, well, this is the problem I want to address, but then this is impacting, this is impacting, this is impacting. So,
Yeah.
like in my area, we're focusing on building and repairing housing, we're focusing on hunger, we're focusing on employment, because all of those things feed into homelessness and feed into housing security. You don't just have the single
Is
focus.
this a full time or part time role?
For a member who would come in,
Uh huh.
we have both, and, it depends on what they're doing. So, for example, if you're doing, employment readiness, then maybe it's full-time because you're dealing with a lot of clients that might need you at different times of the day. If you're doing, preparing bags of food for school children to take home on the weekends, maybe that's part-time. So, there's a variety of roles and a variety of sizes.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, your roles and what it is that that you do. Kind of take us through a day-to-day of Kathy's life, and if you could see her eyes right now, they just got very huge. And kind of your role and how and things that you do.
Well,
Cuz
as
cuz
as
to
a
end the
director.
homelessness, that's a big project to take on, Kathy.
Yeah, but my piece of it really is, multiplying.
Yeah.
So, what Kathy can do is like this much, but what Kathy with a team of 30 people can do is so much bigger. So, where all of my efforts now go is finding the people who wanna serve, training them up so that they'll be successful and have a transformational year. And that's the main thing that I'm about. And because AmeriCorps is funded by the federal government, we have a lot of rules that we have to follow.
And
And
red tape,
so
I'm sure.
keeping everyone in line with those rules so that nobody has to pay back any money later or have some kind of bad outcome, so that's a part of my job too, is just make sure everybody successfully graduates, has a great year, wants to tell all their friends, "Hey, I did AmeriCorps, you should do AmeriCorps."
Mhm. Yeah. And so what do you find is kind of like the biggest need with folks who are homeless? Where do you find that you really kind of need to tap into? Now, don't answer that. Do you hear the music going? That's our cue. All right. When we come back, you are going to tell us where there's a big need and how people are out there who are listening, how they can help. You are listening to the Jill Berlin Show on WSJS News Talk Sports for the Triad. Stay tuned. And welcome back. I am Jill Berlin, and you are listening to The Jill Berlin Show on WSJS News Talk Sports for the Triad. And we can be heard over the air or online. And we are talking now with Kathy Vohs. Kathy Vohs. All right. We had talked about how to pronounce her name earlier, and I wanted to make sure I got it right because I was bragging about how I would get it right. So just wanted to make sure I did. All right. So, Kathy, we were talking about AmeriCorps and just how you have partnered with them to end homelessness. And tell us a little bit about kind of the not only what you see as the biggest problem, but also just some of the personal stories of people that you have seen who have been impacted by this.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest problem with homelessness is hopelessness. Because when you lose hope and you lose the sense that tomorrow is going to be a better day, it's like pulling the bricks down on top of you. And it is so hard to get out of it.
It is.
And hopelessness is not something you can fix by putting someone in a home. And it really is a one-on-one situation. And I think that's why AmeriCorps is so good, because you're putting people in. Here's a person to be one-on-one with, instead of it being, oh, here's this blanket. Let me see how many I can catch in my blanket. No, they need an individual approach.
And sometimes it's almost just a blanket's good, a house is good, but knowing that another human being believes in you, and wants you to do well.
I had a member who was serving in a homeless shelter, and every night before they would go upstairs, they spent some time in the kind of the gathering room, and she would play checkers. She would play checkers with these guys. And one day, a friend of theirs had got hit by a car, and there was a lot of discussion as to whether it was an accident or suicide. And one of the gentlemen said, there's only 4 people I trust. And he looked at her and she goes, you're one of them. And she was so shocked. She was thinking, all I'm doing is playing checkers.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all it was doing for him. For him to have someone who was excited to see him, happy to spend time with him, that's novel and important. And she was important to him. And we've had a lot of people who have made those kind of connections with their clients. There was a woman serving in the clothing bank who would always set aside kind of the extra large men's clothing because it was so seldomly donated and they didn't have very much. And these men would come in and couldn't find anything. And she found this pair of shoes and she set them aside and gave them to this gentleman when he came in for using in his job interview. And then later on, she went to Taco Bell and she was getting ready to pay for her meal. And the man behind the counter in the kitchen said, wait, I'm going to get her lunch because she gave me these shoes so I could get this job. And she had no idea that the interview was at Taco Bell. Yeah. But, and here he is, popping up again and recognizing her as the woman who helped him.
And made that difference.
And made the difference. Yeah, because it doesn't take a lot to make a difference. It takes just that caring, there's been a lot of people that have gone to their service site every single day. And then they come and tell me, this has really changed the way that I see people.
I was just going to say that. So, I tell my kids all the time, if you give, you shall receive. And a lot of time, and to the point where I will say to them, if you give, they look at me and they're like, you shall receive, Mom. I'm like, you'll thank me one day, children. I love you. Anyway, so, I truly believe that. And, that's one of the things that I tell my clients all the time. Health insurance is so boring. I'm the person you check off the list that you don't want to meet with. But I appreciate them allowing me to come and help them because I like helping people. The paperwork is boring, but helping is rewarding. And so I definitely believe that these people, these volunteers who come in are changed. Do you have any stories of volunteers who have come in and then as a result, they look at their life or they do things differently as after being involved in AmeriCorps?
I had this one guy come in on his gap year. He was going to go to med school. He said, but I really just don't like people. I said, oh, this is going to be tough as a doctor. And We put him in disability
Oh
assistance
my gosh,
program.
that is so funny. See, you tell these jokes, Kathy, where it's like they're one-liners and you continue to go on, but in my head, I'm still laughing. And so I'm trying to be serious again, but this is still hilarious. Okay. That is going to be tough as a doctor. Did he become a doctor?
Well, he was in disability assistance, which means you're dealing with people sometimes who are in their last months of life trying to get
Oh my
Social Security
gosh.
disability. It's a very challenging role. And at the end of it, the year he came to me, he says, I decided I love people.
Oh
And it
my
was a
gosh.
180 for him because this is who he was meeting. These people they weren't like his college friends,
Mhm.
and their agendas.
Ah.
And I had
So you had to talk with people who were, you know,
facing stuff.
yeah, real conversations.
And I had a woman who had a degree in interior design. And she came and she was working teaching life skills to people and got into these one-on-ones with all kinds of different clients. She met someone who was a teenager who couldn't read, and she started tutoring him on how to read, and these older disabled veterans at the Servant Center. And she went back to school and got her counseling degree and all her counseling certifications, and that's what she is now, which is not the same as interior design. And I think sometimes you do find things that excite you about life when you're doing service because it's kind of a different doorway into your mind.
And what did the chemical engineer, Kathy Vohs, find?
I have I have for some reason always liked housing. I like to build with habitat. I would go out with Samaritan's Purse and do flood response, to clean up houses, and work with homeless people. And I've done it since the 90s probably. And so I don't know why housing and homelessness is my thing, but I think everybody has a thing that God wires you for your thing.
Yeah, I don't know why that would be Miss Dixie Cups.
Yeah, because you can't build a house out of Dixie cups.
No, but that'd be fun.
Yeah, you never know.
Make for good reality TV. Um, Tell us about the young lady who
Yeah. Yeah.
she
She
was
was in the
going
National Guard, and she was about 5'0", and I had sent her up to Youth Focus with all these towering teenagers, and let me tell you, they thought they could get over on her. She was a sergeant, and she had all those kids in line,
I bet she whipped them right into shape.
and she got, deployed to Afghanistan during this time, and,
What was her role with these kids?
well, at Youth Focus, you're kind of mentoring. You kind of put afternoon activities together with them. You're kind of, just a person to talk with. Sometimes you're the chauffeur to the school, whatever. I mean,
Kind of
it's
like a mentor.
you're a presence
Mm,
that's not the boss. You're a
mhm.
presence that's kind of on their side and listening to them.
Yeah, and this changed her and changed how she approached things in her tour as a result. We want to hear how, but we are going to talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned. You are listening to the Jill Berlin Show on WSJS News Talk Sports for the Triad. And welcome back. You are listening to the Jill Berlin Show on WSJS News Talk Sports for the Trad. We are here with Kathy Vohs, who represents AmeriCorps, and how to end homelessness is specifically her niche. And so she was just telling us about this lady who is a sergeant and was about to go on a tour to Iraq. And she had Afghanistan. Thank you for that correction. And she had worked with young folks, and this lady at the time was just such a huge impact on these kids. But what she didn't anticipate was that they would be a huge impact on her, and then changed her. Tell us how that changed this sergeant.
Well, when she came back from her deployment to Afghanistan, she was with the National Guard. She sent me a letter, and so I want to read a little bit of this letter. And she said, "I've definitely been spreading the word about AmeriCorps, even in Afghanistan. I miss everyone so much. While in Afghanistan, I had an opportunity to work with the women and children, and although there's a language barrier, I've never realized the commonalities that we have. Working at ACT together, that was the shelter for homeless teens, has really helped me to work with the locals. Due to the 30 years plus of war that's been in Afghanistan, it's left many people in poverty. And I think it's been a blessing how working with the homeless population back in North Carolina, I'm able to better understand the emotions and lack of trust that the people in Afghanistan feel about Americans and any other coalition force. Some of my team members are amazed at how well I work with the children, and I've learned that hand games are a universal language for all children. I want to thank you for giving me the experience to be part of AmeriCorps because it taught me so much and has prepared me more than my military training while in Afghanistan."
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good letter.
What is she talking about? Hand games?
Oh, using hand symbols to communicate, not sign language per se, but getting across the language barrier with playing with your symbols with your hands.
Right. And games is such a good. You were saying checkers. It created that trust, and just doing something light, and it's so funny because things always seem worse at night. And my husband and I, we always say keep it light at night so that it's fun. And the games and that with the kids is just it's so important. And the thing about AmeriCorps is that you come in expecting to volunteer and help other people, but a lot of times it really impacts the volunteer. And there's one specific gentleman who had throat cancer.
He had throat cancer, and he spoke with one of those artificial voice boxes.
And he was concerned.
Yeah, he was concerned that people would be kind of repelled by the sound that the voice box made. And he was placed in the food pantry and took a special interest in some of these teen boys that were volunteering there, or maybe I should say they were voluntold to be there, and had quite an attitude about what they were doing. And so he took them aside. He says, "Kathy, no one's taught these boys how to work, what it means to work." And if he ever caught them outside smoking, he would go up to him with his voice box. "You want to talk about me? You want to talk like me when you get older?" And then try and get him to quit smoking.
Yeah.
And then, and so he served three terms, and then
Good for him.
had to leave because he became quite ill, and then he passed away. And so it was that AmeriCorps was at the end of his life, And I'll tell you something about
How
him.
respectful is that? His last years of his life, and where does he spend his time? Serving and helping these kids. He
was a disabled veteran too, because he was used to serving. He wanted to serve.
I mean, just think about those boys he did,
Yes.
impact. And there is no doubt in my mind, as a result, they stopped smoking because of him. Really, truly.
Well, I don't know. Teenagers, never know.
I know, but you never know that impact and that stamp you leave. But anyway,
Yes.
but I mean, the fact that this is how he wanted to,
He really wanted to serve. He came into my office,
last couple of years,
picked up an application, brought it back in 45 minutes with all the references. No one had ever done it like that.
Bada bing, bada
He
boom.
wanted it, and he did a great job. And one of my favorite members.
Yeah.
So, we have another story about a member who was serving in a place where she wanted to go. Was a little more quiet because she was a little nervous about working with people.
Uh-huh.
And There was a theft ring operating in there. There were
Wait.
volunteers.
She was nervous about working with people, and then she gets involved in a theft ring?
No, there was a theft ring operating of other volunteers. They were stealing from the agency. And
Uh-huh.
so where she was placed, she saw them. And
Oh.
they tried to bully her and threaten her to keep her quiet.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
said, "Do you want me to get you out of there?" And she goes, "No, no." And she says, I'm gonna see this through."
Wow.
And so while all this was happening, she decided to volunteer at the winter emergency shelter with these homeless women who were telling her stories that were making her eyes bug out,
Uh-huh.
because she was young and she was pretty sheltered
Yeah.
in her upbringing. And they got the theft ring all cleaned up and those people removed. And I said, "So do you want to stay now?" She goes, "No, I want to transfer and work in the shelter." And so she moved from not really wanting to have a lot to do with people to wanting to have one of the most face-to-face roles you can have. And I said, "Well, what did you get out of your year of service?" "A backbone." That's what she told me, a
Oh.
backbone. And I thought, wow, maybe I should put that on my brochure.
Yeah, really.
And it's sad, but it's true that the members who've had the biggest challenges in their service grow the most
Mm.
and in the most unexpected ways. I know this was not her objective.
How did you grow?
Oh, I grow all the time. I meet all kinds of people. They completely change me.
Yeah.
I don't think you can serve anything anywhere and not be changed. You always change. And it's important because the Bible says that our treasure is held in these jars of clay. That you can't see the beauty that God has made you because it's covered up with this jar of clay. And sometimes those jars get chipped. And for some reason, we're like, "Oh, that's a chipped jar. I don't
Yeah.
want to spend time with them." But you know what? If you spend time with them, you're going to find out that they are amazing inside, just like you're amazing inside.
No, thanks, Kathy.
And how can
But
you not be changed?
you're right. Well, and we are all chipped jars.
Yes, every one of us is a chipped jar, but some of us get roles on TV and we look pretty. And so we're highly decorated chip jar.
Yeah. If you're wondering if my hair is real blonde, it is. I never dye it. Just kidding. I'm going today. Okay. So I love me some hydrogen peroxide. Okay. Anywho, tell me this. One of the things we ask is, who's your favorite superhero? I want to know, who's Kathy's favorite superhero?
Yeah.
This chemical engineer.
I really like Daniel in the book of Daniel.
So for people listening, tell us a little bit about Daniel in the book of Daniel.
Daniel was a teenager who was snatched from his home in Jerusalem and dragged to Babylon. And he held on to what he believed was true about God all through his life. And man, I just admire that. He never bent. He was put under extreme pressure. They fed him to the lions at one point. He's always under pressure and he never bends. And one of the interesting stories in Daniel is
He's
that
a level head.
he's definitely level-headed. He meets an angel down by the river and he falls on his face and it always leaves a mark on me. This made Daniel fall on his face. And I think, and people go, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do this and this." And I'm like, "You're going to be on your face," because that's what happens to even the best. Then they just fall on their face. So yeah, Daniel's my superhero.
Well, and that's, I think that's true of, a lot of people in life is they do fall on their face. And really what's important is whether they get back up or not. Right. And then, not only do they get back up, but they can come in and help other people and impact other people. And that's what AmeriCorps is all about, is making sure that you come in and you get the training to help other folks, but then in the end, you're also helping yourself as well. So
You're changed.
You are changed. If there are folks out there listening and they want to get involved, what do they do?
Well, AmeriCorps is a year-long program and usually starts in September, and then you serve for the year, and then we get a new team in the next September. So we're not actually looking for a team now, but you can pay attention. If you're in the triad, there's a team at Wake Forest that focuses on public health. If you've got a passion for public health, they want you. There's a team in Greensboro that focuses on immigrants and refugees. If that's your area, they want you.
All right, go to volunteernc.org, volunteernc.org, and you can get all the information there. Kathy, thank you for being here. I am Jill Berlin. You are listening to The Jill Berlin Show. Stay tuned for health insurance tips when we come back.
With Jeffrey Griffin.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You are listening to The Jill Berlin Show on WSJS News Talk Sports for the Triad. I got to tell you, I love being on this radio show. Christian, don't you feel the same way?
I really, really enjoy it, Jill.
I do too. I'm telling you, WSJS is like a family to me. I love being here on Thursday mornings. I really do. I mean, it is just, it's truly a joy for me. And I appreciate you. Thank you for listening, because all of this would not be possible if it would not be for you listening to us here on WSJS or watching us on Facebook. All right. Real quick, you guys, I just want to tell you about the Medicare Part D donut hole, because I have been getting a lot of questions about this. And fun fact, for the year 2024, if you pay, here's the magic number. If you pay over $420 a month for your medications, you are going to enter that donut hole in 2024. Okay, so what is the donut hole? Let's just review it real quick. All right. Stage 1, This is the deductible stage, and it starts in January 1st. And a beneficiary may have to meet an annual deductible or pay 100% of prescription drug costs up to a certain limit before the plan starts to pay. So in 2023, that maximum deductible for Part D was $505. But, certain plans can set a lower limit. In 2024, it is going up $40. So it'll be $545. Okay, that's the max deductible. Then stage 2, initial coverage. And that's where the beneficiary only pays copays and coinsurance for prescriptions. And then once the combined amount the beneficiary and drug plan pay reaches the initial coverage limit, then the beneficiary enters the coverage gap, also known as the donut hole. All right, so what is that amount? Well, 2023, the amount is $4,660. And then in 2024, it is going up to $5,030. All right. So then you enter into that donut hole begrudgingly until you get to $8,000. So you're paying all these out-of-pocket costs, and it's just painful. And you're wondering, when am I going to get out of this? And it's when you reach that $8,000 mark. And that stage 3, the beneficiary pays no more than 25% of the cost for brand name and generic prescription drugs. The true out-of-pocket limit is $8,000. And then once that's met, you enter into the catastrophic coverage phase, which is stage 4. And that's when you, the beneficiary, only pays a small copay or coinsurance for covered drugs for the rest of the year. So it's almost like this. You get on your drugs, you meet that deductible, and then all of a sudden you get to that limit in 2024, $5,030, and the government's like, all right, we've helped you enough. You can go ahead and start paying more for your drugs. And then you're like, wait a minute, what? I don't want to do that. And then you're paying so much money. And then all of a sudden you're like, I can't take it. I've reached $8,000. Why are you doing this to me? And then the government's like, yeah, you're right. I feel bad. My bad. I will take that back. We'll start helping again. And then you start getting help again in stage 4. And then, added bonus, it resets again in January 1st of the following year. But they are actually trying to do away with the donut hole supposedly by 2026. We'll see if that all happens. That's what the government said. And you know how it goes. Government is kind of like construction. Can't really depend on that. Anyway. All right. So that is the one thing that I wanted to tell you guys about the donut hole. And then the other thing too is just a reminder. This is something else I've been asked about on a regular basis. And again, these are things that we've covered, but I just want to keep telling you guys about it because one of the things that's great about meeting with clients time and time again is that I figure out what is going on. It's kind of like a boots on the ground, right? You're meeting with folks and you see what it is that people need to hear consistently on the radio or online so that I can make sure I'm doing my job in educating you. And so that is the Part B premium, which is what's taking out of Social Security every month, that is going up. Okay. So you pay about $165, I'm rounding up right now. And then next year it is going up to about $175. So just know that is going up. There's different plans. There's various plans with Part B give back. So your Social Security is actually credited. Okay. So it doesn't always have to be that $175 that's taken out. There are certain plans with that. And if you are interested in knowing which plans those are, specifically which carriers offer that, and are they actually good plans to be on, I can help answer those questions. You can email me about that, jill@rsvp65.com, and I can let you know. Again, it's jill@rsvp65.com. All right. We are going to end the show. This hour just flies by, doesn't it, Christian? Okay. But that's what happens when you enjoy your job. Okay. All right. The quote is by Abraham Lincoln. And it is, here's the quote. It is not the years of your life that count. It's the life in your years. I'll say it one more time. It is not the years of your life that count. It's the life in your years. All right. Coming up next is Brian Kilmeade, who I was actually an intern at Vohs and Friends. And he was there. And I worked with him a little bit. Okay. I also just want to say thank you to all our listeners. We so appreciate you. And if you missed parts of the show today, you can always watch the full episode on my Facebook page, Jill Berlin, or email me, jill@rsvp65.com. And also you can go on WSJS.com and listen. And you can always just tune in next week when we have our next guest, which will also be entertaining and fun. And if you have a guest that you want to see on air that you think should be on air, let us know. We want to hear from you about that. Again, email me, jill@rsvp65.com. And for Christian Snyder and Gray Brendel, I am Jill Berlin. And I just want to say to you, I am so glad the fall weather is coming.
Oh, me too.
Aren't
So
you?
so excited. I'm ready. I'm ready.
I had to throw that in there. Okay. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. Until next week.